in a place far from the noise of the world, where the air freezes before it reaches your chest, and where the earth is so silent you think it has been asleep since the beginning of creation. There lived a man who wasn't looking for war, but war came to him, and when it came, he didn't run away. He didn't speak much. He didn't write memoirs or raise banners, but he changed the face of history with his few bullets and his long silence. That man they called the White Death. Winter in Finland was so harsh that silence was heavier than ice. The sky was gray and the days were short, as if the sun was afraid to look down at the ground. In a small village amidst forests and fields of snow, Simo Häyhä was born. Born as silence is born, in the heart of the mountain. No noise, no prophecy. Just a little boy with the color of snow in his eyes and the stillness of the forest in his chest. His father was a farmer who knew the land as a father knows his son. His mother was a woman who knew nothing but simplicity and tranquility. She taught him not to talk too much and to listen more than he spoke. And since his childhood, he would disappear for hours in the forest, following the tracks of small animals, breathing gently so as not to scare the birds, and to learn how to be a part of the place, not a stranger to it. As he grew a little older, he loved hunting. It wasn't just fun, but it was a kind of silent prayer. He would wait for long periods without moving, listening to the wind as it passed through the trees, smelling the cold and knowing where the deer were coming from. When he fired his shot, it always hit the target. It was as if there was a secret, unwritten covenant between him and the air. Little did he know that this quiet patience would later become his most deadly weapon, and that the forest, his refuge, would turn into an arena where all his learning of silence and anticipation would be tested. The years passed slowly, like heavy clouds passing over the north, until the year came when everything changed. 1939, when the Soviet Empire decided to swallow up little Finland. Cannons began to speak instead of birds, and the land was divided into lines of fire and snow. Men departed, never to return, and villages were erased from maps as if they had never existed. At that moment, Simo left his old farm. He carried his old Mosin Nagant rifle, and nothing else, neither helmet nor armor, only a white scarf that melted into the snow to hide him from view. He wasn't the tallest or the noisiest of soldiers. He was short and silent, like a human shadow, but his eyes saw everything, and deep within him was a mysterious belief that every man must protect his land as he protects his heart. From the first days, his comrades knew that he would disappear when the fighting intensified, and then return with news that no one knew how he gathered. He would see Soviet soldiers from afar, moving in the forest without hearing what he heard, The snow would tell him their footsteps, and the trees would whisper to him from which direction they would come. On the day the first bullet fell from his rifle, he felt neither ecstasy nor fear. He just looked into the distance as if saying goodbye to something inside him. Then he calmly reloaded the weapon. He didn't know that that bullet was the beginning of a legend that would fill the world with amazement. Years. The soldiers around him talked about death as if it were their neighbor. He talked about the weather, the snow, and the silence. He laughed a little and listened more. At night, when everyone was asleep, he would sit alone. He stared at the gray horizon and thought, does every war begin with a small mistake that no one sees? In the morning, he disappears before the others wake up. He walks on the snow without a trace. He breathes slowly so that the steam coming from his mouth is not seen. He sits there under a silent tree as if it has known him forever. He places his rifle in front of him and waits. Minutes, hours, and sometimes a whole day without moving. Time was something different in his eyes. It was measured not in hours, but in the breaths between two bullets. The enemy could not see him that the snow protected him, until they whispered his name as if speaking of a ghost haunting the forest. They said he did not sleep and that his bullets did not miss. And every day one less soldier returned from their camp. The Soviet leadership began to think he was more than human. So they sent snipers to hunt him down. But they went and never returned. There was nothing magical about it. He trusted only his eyes and his calm. He chose his place carefully, as someone who chooses a place of prayer. He melted into the snow until he became a part of it. And when the target came, no one heard anything but silence. In that long winter, more than 500 soldiers were killed by his bullets. But inside, he didn't feel victorious. He would return every evening to his small tent. He would sit in front of a dim fire that barely warmed his fingers. He would wash his face with snow, as if trying to awaken his humanity from a cold slumber. He would ask himself, can a person win a war and lose something of his soul? He would find no answer but silence. Simo knew that war wasn't like what people described. It didn't create heroes, as they thought. Rather, it revealed what was inside a person when everything they were accustomed to was taken away from them. He saw in the eyes of the soldiers a fear they tried to hide with laughter. He saw in their faces a mirror of what was inside him as well. That silent, unspoken anxiety, those questions for which he had no words. On days when the snow swallowed the sound, his footsteps alone cut through the forest. He chose his position with an expert eye. He read the earth as a farmer reads the face of a field. Then he disappeared into the whiteness, turning into a white shadow in a colorless world. He put a little snow in his mouth so that the steam from his breath wouldn't be seen. He partially buried his rifle in the snow to hide its shine. Every detail was a matter of life or death. He realized that war wasn't about the big battles, but rather the small details that no one saw. In those days, he no longer felt time. The sun rose only a little, and the night stretched on as if it didn't want to end. The cold penetrated the bones until it almost made him forget. His name is Man, but Simo wasn't complaining. He believed that whoever chose his path had no right to complain, and that only patience was true warmth in the heart of the ice. His companions began to look at him with admiration mixed with mystery. Some thought he was lucky. Some said he felt nothing. But the truth was he felt everything. Every shot meant a life taken. That weight resided in his chest, even if he didn't speak about it. Every evening he closed his eyes, trying to forget the faces he'd seen falling. But they would return to him in dreams, as if demanding that he remember them so their meaning wouldn't be lost. Sometimes the night would grow so long that he could hear the wind whistling over the forest. He would talk to himself in a low voice, asking her if she knew where the souls of those who fell into the snow went. Does anyone hear them when they depart? Does God feel the cold like them? Then he falls silent and closes his eyes to an unanswered question. In the morning he gets up as if he hadn't asked anything. He wipes his rifle, he pulls on his white scarf, and goes into the same forest, as if yesterday had never happened. The Finnish command began to notice what he was doing. Among the soldiers, they called him White Death, because he comes silently and disappears just as silently. No one knew where he fired his shot from or when he would return. Even the enemy began to mention his name in their reports. They said he was a ghost hovering over the snow, and that killing him was harder than the wind. One morning, the Soviets sent a group of snipers to hunt him. They were 10 highly trained snipers. They spread out in the forest. They waited dot, but they found nothing. When the Finns returned to inspect the area, they found traces of blood on the snow. They didn't find the 10 snipers. Simo didn't rejoice in killing. He was doing what he saw as his duty. All he wished for was for the war to end so he could return to his old hunt, to the forest as it was before the blood. But the war, it doesn't end when we ask it to, but when it's full of souls. In late February of 1940, the unthinkable happened. A Soviet sniper shot him in the face. He fell to the snow. He lost consciousness. His comrades thought he was dead, but fate hadn't yet written his end. After many days in a coma, he opened his eyes in the hospital. His face was disfigured and snow still filled the windows. He looked at the nurse beside him and asked in a weak voice, "Is the war over?" She smiled and said, Yes, it's over, Simo. It was the first time he had smiled in months. A small smile, but more sincere than any victory. Then he closed his eyes and surrendered to a new, long silence. A silence without fear or weapons. After the war, he returned to his village. He didn't carry many medals. He asked for nothing. He bought a small farm and lived there, as he had before. He hunted in the morning, raised his dogs in the evening, and talked to his neighbors about the weather, not the war. When a journalist asked him decades later, "Do you regret anything?" he said, "I did what I had to do. If I hadn't, no one would be left to talk to you now." Then he fell silent. The white sheik sat by his window on a winter night, looking out at the same forest he knew as a child. In his eyes was a hint of longing and a hint of peace. He may no longer hear the sounds of bullets, but deep down he still heard the sound of the same wind. The wind that accompanied him in the war, the wind that witnessed his long silence. And so he lived and died as he began, in complete silence, no heroism, no noise. Just a man who understood that true strength lies not in the number of bullets, but in the ability to remain human amidst all this frost. In the end, his name remained in the history books, and his story continued to be told on cold nights. About the man who didn't seek glory, but glory sought him. If you enjoyed this story, give it more life by interacting. Click like, share your opinion, and subscribe to the channel to receive more stories when the world sleeps and tailies awaken.